Are the home prices going up in value after the LA wildfires? Well, you might be surprised or not. Stay tuned. Hey guys, Scott Himelstein with the Scott Himelstein Group. So on today's video, we're going to be talking about if home prices here in Los Angeles County specifically have been going up as a result of the LA wildfires. And it's a kind of a mixed bag, just to give you a little bit of a sneak preview on that. But before we get into that, I think we have to recap a few things. And some of these things we've talked about in some of our previous videos recently over the course of the last 30 days. And so, all these victims of the wildfire, well, again, they're now in the buyer and the rental market pool. Right. So, and then one of the things that it's so obvious, but I think a lot of people are sellers that own houses currently in fire zones right now, that you have to realize that if people lost their home in these wildfires, they're not going to be buying right in another wildfire zone. Like everyone I have talked to agrees on that. So you have to start with that. And then you got to start with, the victims of these wildfires. I think it's going to take a minimum of at least 3 years to build, And I could easily see, in the canyons like Malibu, some areas of the Palisades, I just think it's probably going to be 7 to 8 years. There's so many different things that have to be worked out, whether it be permits, whether they're going to change the building codes, what's that's going to look like, defensible spaces. That's something else that I'm sure that's going to be talked about a lot ad nauseum in detail, right? So I think you have to start with that. And then what we're finding right now is that a majority of these homeowners, right, they're looking at long-term leases 1 to 2 years. I mean, if you're a family that has just lost your house, this is a massive shock to the system. And even though it's only been about 30 days since these wildfires began, right, you're still kind of in that shock mode, losing absolutely everything and starting from scratch. And so right now, you just need a roof over your head. Right. So I think you've got to start with that premise. So most of these people are looking for leases, of that 1 to 2 year variety just to get on their feet. And then most of them, I anticipate they're just going to figure it out from there. And then you got to look at the insurance side of it too, right? So what are these people going to actually get paid out? So whatever they get paid out, it's clearly not going to be enough to rebuild, because let's just say the payment that you get is 1 million, 1.5 million, just say it's 2.5, 3 million, depending on the neighborhood that you were living in before. Well, the problem is that building a home in Los Angeles, and especially in these areas, it's going to go from about $400 a square foot. Now it's going to go up to probably $800 to $1,000 a square foot. So are they going to be able to have the means to be able to make up that gap and make up that difference? So I think that's something we're going to have to be able to keep an eye on also. And then something that you don't hear a lot of people talk about right now when it comes to insurance is also the fact that whatever your payment is going to be, that you also have to remember that most of these people have a mortgage on their home. So if they have a mortgage on their home, they're still responsible for property taxes. Whatever insurance payouts they get or financial assistance from FEMA, a lot of that's going to go to pay off that mortgage so they're no longer delinquent. And so these are things that people are going to actually have to go through over the course of the next several months, next few years, when it comes to figuring out where they want to be long term, right? And so what we're finding right now is that when it comes to the Palisades fire, most people are migrating to another beach community, whether it be Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach, El Segundo, Culver City. They want to stay on the west side, maybe Brentwood, Santa Monica, Venice. That's where they're going to. Now, again, most of these people are actually renting right now. And so, because obviously, if you just lost your house, you're probably not going to buy right away. But some people do have the means. And for the Eden fire, right, we're seeing that a lot of these people are moving to La Cañada, Pasadena, Monrovia, the surrounding areas right there in the San Gabriel Valley, right? And so those people right now, they're trying to stay in those areas. So like one of the examples I've been using since the very beginning is that if you have a family, right, and your kids were in a school, right, and that school's no longer open, maybe it burned down, right, so now you're enrolling your kids into different schools, and now you're going to get yourself situated in a whole different neighborhood, and you're going to build your roots there, right? So again, people aren't necessarily going to be looking to rebuild. And if you're elderly, a lot of the elderly people don't want to go through the rebuild process. And as a result of that, you're going to see a lot of them move in with other family. And then the last thing is that, hey, you know what, like new construction, like we've talked about many times, that when you buy a house, especially if you're in the first phase, you could have a couple years of construction vehicles, dirt, debris, nails on the street, chemicals, toxins, all sort of that. And if you have a family, you know what, you probably don't want to be around that and having to deal with that for several years. All right, so again, we're seeing a lot of people rent right now, but there are people right now that are buying, right? They have the means to be able to do so. And they're not buying all over LA County. They're not going up to Castaic, right? They're not going to Lancaster, right? And so the areas that have seen a massive increase are the areas like Manhattan Beach, right? So they literally have seen a 2 to 3 year markup in the span of just over a month, which is absolutely incredible. And so the home prices, as a result of increasing so much, right? Because all these families are moving there, they're putting their kids in the schools and establishing their roots like we talked about. So like the cities like Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, the surrounding area, I think that their home values are going to be impacted for the long term, because eventually these renters are probably going to, once they get the payouts for insurance, are going to probably start to look to buy in these neighborhoods. Now look, like if you go out to northern LA County, San Fernando Valley, you're not seeing results of these LA wildfires. And what I mean by that is like you're not seeing people move out here in droves. Now I think some people will move to the south side of the San Fernando Valley, like Sherman Oaks, Tarzana, Encino, Toluca Lake, Studio City. That I could see. But this notion that people are moving all over the place, to the Inland Empire, to Santa Clarita from the wildfires, you might have a few, but to be honest, like we are not seeing that at all. In fact, one of the things that we started to see is that you're seeing a larger migration of people from Los Angeles County affected by these wildfires to Orange County, right? Because now maybe they want to be out of Los Angeles County for a variety of reasons. So at the end of the day, what are we seeing with prices when it comes here to the Los Angeles real estate market? So in areas like that, right, that are surrounding the wildfires, right, you're gonna see much higher increases right here in the short term when it comes to the home prices in those neighborhoods. But LA County as a whole, well, it's really interesting because the market was kind of stagnant at the beginning of the year and towards the end of last year. And not necessarily because it was the holiday season, but just because rates had kind of creeped up over 7%. And now that the rates have kind of come back down a little bit, now we're looking into the high sixes. It's just amazing what happens when the interest rates actually dip below 7%. So we're seeing on our listings, we're seeing more offers on these listings again. We're seeing more activity at our open houses. So you're seeing more sales. But I do want to point something out, that what we're finding across LA County right now, that the magic number seems to be 1.3 million, right? Because after that, there are buyers out there, but when you start looking at the fact when it's going to be $8,000 to $10,000 a month or higher for your monthly payment, as you can imagine, your buyer pool is going to shrink dramatically, right? And so for people that are looking right now to buy right now, that's why you're seeing most of the sales. A lot of the homes with the multiple offers are the 1.3. The homes that are sitting right now are a majority of them that are over 2 million. That over 2 million price point, the buyers really have to see the value out there because one, there's a lot more inventory sitting on the market as opposed to that 1.5 price point and below. So I think that's something really to consider, that if you're buying right now and you're under that 1.3, you're probably going to see a lot more competition than you would have if you're in the up above that 1.5, and especially over that $2 million price point. So, the good news is, where I think it's a crazy market right now, is the fact that your inventory, as I looked at it as the day of we're shooting this video, I was not really surprised, because the inventory is still really relatively low. The inventory is half of what it was pre-pandemic. So remember, the pandemic started in about March of 2020, right? So we're almost there in the month of March. And so when you look at what the inventory is right now, it's just amazing that you still have half the inventory available than what you did that was pre-pandemic. So I think there's a lot of things that go into that. I think there's not a lot of affordable new construction being built right now to meet the demand. Most of the new construction that's taking place in Los Angeles County is more luxury, high-end. A lot of it closer to that 1.7, going above 2 million. And again, there's just not as many buyers in that buyer pool, and the demand is there, right? Because a lot of people want to buy, but there's just not enough to choose from. So this is going to be really interesting to kind of see what takes place over the course of the next couple of months, because we're starting to see homes that were sitting for months sell as the inventory continues to drop. And look, we're not going to see this data play out as a result of the wildfires until March and April, as the closed sales in March and April reflect a market of January, February, and March. So again, the interest rates really playing a big factor in all of this. And so, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. One thing that to me is going to be really interesting right now for the victims of these wildfires who decide to buy, whenever they decide to buy, if they decide to buy in LA County, is that a lot of these people own their homes for a very long time, or they have a very low interest rate. And that mortgage interest rate lock effect, which is really keeping the inventory low for people who have that interest rate under 4% right now. So if they were to buy now, right, you're looking at an $8,000 to $25,000 a month payment, depending on what neighborhood you buy and what you're looking at to buy, which is absolutely crazy, right? So I think that, that's going to affect a lot of these people, whether or not they decide to buy. So what we're seeing, again, just to make sure we understand, is that we are seeing prices in LA County go up incrementally. We're not seeing massive growth, but I think the areas affected right around the wildfires, you could see massive growth, because people, again, want to stay close to those neighborhoods. This is something we're definitely going to keep an eye on as the LA market really continues to heat up into the spring market. So we're going to keep an eye on this for you. So make sure you stay tuned. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel. I'm Scott Himelstein with the Scott Himelstein Group. Thank you for watching this video.